how, and all of a sudden she's not sick no more. I'm like, what the heck is going on?
Yes, power of love.
That's a testament.
Yeah, and I asked my mom, hey, how did that happen like that? She kind of smiled and laughed. So I've seen things growing up, but I never could explain why, so I think, oh, okay, she overcame it somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, give a woman an orgasm and the whole world changes.
Yeah. And you know what? Why is that important? And I mean, well, it don't have to be and y'all don't have to be married or, really, but just in general, just generally speaking, why is that important for a woman?
You want to take that, Willow?
Why is orgasm and
Welcome to another episode of the Love Can't Wait podcast. I'm your host, Sharp Game. So like and share this episode. And P.S. by the way, any questions, any topics, any concerns, any guests you would like me to bring on, let me know. Just send me an email at renegademoney@gmail.com. That's renegademoney@gmail.com. Or just click the link below. And I want to hear your feedback, what you think, and any guests you would like me to bring on, if any. You know what I'm saying? So, with that being said, today I have special guesses. I have two guesses at the same time. Now, this is something new for me. I've never done this before. A very unique experience. And it's going to be a very good experience. Right? So I have two guests at the same time. They've been working together for a long time. And this is going to be a wonderful conversation. So, my first guest holds a doctorate in Chinese medicine. She blends ancient philosophy with sexual and spiritual practices that ignite the soul's true calling. She's devoted to the sexual healing of humanity and works to promote and open receptive pleasure pathways in each person she works with. And my second guest is a co-founder of Sex Reimagined Podcast and the founder of More Love Works. She's an intimacy expert with multiple advanced certifications in Tantra Yoga, positive psychology, and Somatic Therapies. With over 2 decades of experience in groups and supporting couples and individuals in her private practices, she's witnessed thousands of people heal from sexual trauma and awaken sleeping pleasures. My special guest today is Dr. Willow Brown and Leah Piper. Welcome to the show.
Leah would be like,
Yeah. I figured it out.
So where y'all from?
we're from California. Well, I am originally and currently residing in Santa Cruz, California. However, thinking about Santa Barbara as a change of pace. And Leah, darling, is from Michigan, but Cali now.
Yeah, originally from Michigan, but I live in Sacramento, California now.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I've been in both places.
Okay, where are you?
I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, nice.
I love North Carolina.
Yeah. So how did you guys come together? Because you don't see a lot of people working together. There's some people working together, but not a lot of people. So how did y'all come together? How did y'all get started? What led you on this journey of intimacy, sex, love, relationships? How did everything come together?
Well, once upon a time, I had been teaching Taoist sexology for already quite a long time, over a decade. And then I decided to get into Tantra. And who should be my teacher but the one and only Leah Piper? So she was one of my first Tantra teachers. And I just remember when I was sitting in the class and watching her, I'm such a teacher connoisseur. And I was like, she is an amazing teacher. She's just so eloquent and she knows her shit and she's embodied it and she's been doing the work. And I just thought to myself, boy, it would be really fun to teach with her one day. And then the years went by. We got into a mastermind with another dear friend of ours. We did that through the pandemic and just kind of supported each other in our own separate businesses. And I think it was right after the pandemic, 2022, did we start? Or 2021? Yeah, 2022. And we decided, okay, let's run a summit. And from there, from a telesummit, the podcast was born. So now we're on our third year of the Sex Reimagined Podcast. We've got all kinds of programs on Tantra and sacred sexuality, ejaculatory choice, and how to worship the goddess from a Tantra perspective. And we just have a lot of fun doing it together. We're always talking about how working together really keeps us accountable and keeps the ball moving forward. Plus, Leah's a mastermind at all the tech stuff, which I super appreciate.
Yeah, it's been a great partnership so far, being able to co-produce a lot of different content, between online courses and then the show and other collaborations has been so fun. And I'm the type of person who really needs, I'll blow it off if it's just for me. But if I'm on the line with other people, if I'm working with a team, I'm going to show up and I'm going to bring more to the table than I would on my own for myself. So it took some years to realize that that's how I plug into my creative juice. And I really need to set that up for myself. And Willow's been such a great partner. And then when I looked at we're in the same field, right? We both live in the sacred sexuality world. But people often want to know, what is Tantra and what is Taoism? Especially from the sexual perspective, which is sort of our corner of the market. And to just give a really simple explanation, of course, there's more nuances in this. I always think of, especially my brand of Tantra, as taking sexual energy and using it to awaken more pleasure, to sexually heal, and then eventually to really align to this thing that's bigger than us, that allows us to have really profound experiences in sex and in orgasm. Whereas with Taoism, I think of it as taking that same sexual energy, but then channeling it to the body, towards your vitality, towards your hormones, towards your health. And so they're both doing complementary things and they weave really well together, which is why, we consider Dr. Willow, the Taoist expert on the show, and Leah Piper as the Tantra expert on the show, although we've both studied both mediums.
Gotcha. Now, Leah, when you first met Dr. Willow, what did you think? Did you think, hey, were you skeptical or I don't know?
Oh, no. I mean, immediately, you can't be, the first thing that happens is you're captivated by her beauty, right? She's a gorgeous woman. Yeah. And then the thing that really stands out is both at her beginner weekend and her intermediate weekend, I always felt like her and her partner were like the stars of the show. They came back after our big home play night because we assign all the couples, here, go do this practice. You're in the lab now, and then come back to class the next day and tell us how it went. And they just had the most beautiful breakthroughs. And it's the kind of experience the day after a home play experience in a class like that, where it renews your faith in love, it renews your faith in humanity, it renews your faith in both the opposite sex and the same sex. When people come together and they really take an exercise and learn how to love better, it touches everyone in the classroom. So there wasn't a dry eye in that class after Willow was done sharing her experience with her partner. And I just knew immediately that we were kindred spirits. We're around the same age, so we're contemporaries. And she had been in this world for so long. It was super excited to see her come to the teacher training after that, because there was a couple years that she waited to do it. And then we lived in the same town, because at that time I lived in Santa Cruz, and I could always use another girlfriend.
Oh, that's nice. Sound like almost like a match made in heaven.
A match made in heaven.
That's what it is, baby.
Yeah. So, this is a broad space when it comes to the sexes, men and women. But why this space? Why not just stick with just social topics, or just focus on problems that people have socially, or maybe stuff at the job, or maybe getting dates? Why? Because it's not a whole lot of people that, at least I don't know. I don't see a whole lot of people talking about sex online. I don't see. So
unfortunately.
I know. And those who are talking about it are getting censored like crazy.
Exactly.
So are we sometimes. It's
me too.
Uphill battle.
Ask ourselves that question.
Yeah. Like what?
Yeah. And that's another question. Why go down that road and get censored? Certain people don't want you on their platforms. And I can go on and on, but but why go down that road? Why not just be
pick an easier path,
politically correct?
Yeah, I really see sexuality as the foundation of who we are as human beings. And I have been in the healing arts for over 2 decades and helped human beings on every single level of what it means to come into wholeness, from a physical to the spiritual to the psychological to the sexual. And I have never found a more profound healing modality than this work, than this sacred sexual work, because we are born from sexuality. We are created from sexuality. It's the foundation of who we are. It's our essence. And that's one of the first things that I like to get my clients in touch with is like, what is your essence? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it wear? Who's surrounding it? What is your essence? And a lot of people are not even in touch with their own personal essence. But when they do get in touch with that and they start to explore different breath work, different running sexual energy through different meridians in their body, lighting up the different glands, the pineal gland and the thymus gland in their bodies to get a new sense, a new relationship with the greater field of infinite possibilities. I'm getting a little esoteric here, but this is the truth of really what we're here to do. We think we're Dr. Willow. We think we're a woman. We think we're, a Californian, but those are just labels. Those are just constructs. Those are the material plane. And when we go through this veil and go through this portal from this material plane into this energetic field. So a lot of what we teach is teaching people how to tune into their energy. And when they tune into their sexual energy, it's very potent. It's very profound. It's the energy that creates new life. So it's the most potent creative life force energy that we have access to. And as a Chinese medicine doctor, I'm always watching the life force energy, like what's going on with somebody's chi. And you can see when somebody has sexual energy that is shut down, that is wounded through traumas, through heartbreak, through different things that we all go through in life. And you can see when they liberate that. You can see it in their eyes. You can see it in the skin tone. You can see it in the way that they carry themselves. Mm-hmm. And their lives change prolifically. Like their lives just change radically, and they everyone sees them as like, wow, what happened to you? You look different. So it's really I feel it's the foundation of who we are as human beings. And when we liberate ourselves and we have more access to that creative life force energy, we can create anything that we want in life.
Yeah, I would just add to that and say, when I first stumbled into this, I knew like at a young age that there must be something more to sex. And I wasn't getting it at school, and I wasn't getting it from my parents, and I certainly wasn't getting it from the church. But I felt it deep in my soul that there was something that was missing. And there was just a quest inside of me that needed to go find it. What surprised me was that, especially with the tantric art form, is that there was going to be so much healing involved. I didn't realize how much healing I needed. And both Willow and I have had sexual trauma as a part of our early foundational experiences as sexual beings. And so you bring all that together, and it's just a ton of confusion. So I know that I have to do this work, because if I felt that way, my God, most people feel that way, especially when you have, 1 out of 3 women having had some kind of sexual harm and 1 out of 4 men having some sort of sexual harm. This path is such an incredible way to fast track the healing that's involved, because when that gets buried, it affects all your relationships. It affects how you feel around your own sexual confidence, your adequacy, your lovability, your self-worth. All this stuff ends up corrupting your relationships. You end up, looking for people, attracting people who don't do you right. And when you start to clean up the psyche that's tied to the physical body, because the harm that's been done to us doesn't just happen in our heads. Yeah, you can go talk about it for 10 years in therapy, but it's the body that keeps the score. It's the body that actually holds the trauma. So like Dr. Willow said, when you liberate that, everything changes in your life, because your energy changes. How you react to the world changes. And I had such a dramatic transformation on my own personal journey that it's like it picked me, I didn't pick it.
Yeah. That's nice.
And every time I think about changing careers, or like, God, maybe I should get into real estate. Maybe I should open a laundromat. Like, what can I do? To I don't know, make more money, I guess, is the ultimate goal. And for some reason, this work keeps on drawing me back. It won't let me go.
Yeah, same here. So this question is for both of y'all. Do you think some people are just too far gone? Some people would say some people are just broken. They just leave them alone. There's nothing there's nothing you can do about some people. Some people are just too far gone. They done been through too much. Mm-hmm. They done been used and abused. What do you think when people make comments like that?
That's a really good question. Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, nobody is ever broken. You're whole underneath many layers of heavy, wet blankets and traumas and bullshit and societal constructs. And so what we have to do is delayer those blankets, take those blankets off, start to lighten you up so that you can find your wholeness underneath it all. I have worked with women who were sold into sexual slavery as children, and for the vast majority of their childhood into teen years. And it is a journey. And one of the things that there's a big fear, I would say, for people who have lots of layers on top of their sexual freedom and sexual sovereignty. There's a big fear of like, oh God, if I open that can of worms, it's just going to be a can of worms, and it's going to be so painful, and I'm going to have to relive all those traumas and all those painful experiences. And I don't want to do that. So they just keep pushing it under the rug. But what I find is that the way that I really like to work with people is just talking to the body. As Leah was saying, the body keeps the score. So we have to get in and talk to the body and start to release these traumas from a somatic point of view, from a somatic experience, so that you can step out of this old body, this old way of being, and these old emotional addictions that we have as human beings and step into a new body. And it usually, here's what I'll say, in all my years of all the healing modalities, I always say healing does not have to be painful. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. It can actually be filled with pleasure and joy and getting to know yourself on such a profound, deep level. And that's really where I see people experience the deeper levels of healing, is when they're actually in rapture and they're actually in pleasure and they're really just running this new creative life force energy through their bodies in a way they never have been shown to do so before. And it's experiential. We could talk about it till the cows come home, but somebody needs to experience it to really believe that it's the path for them. And God bless, and big hugs to everyone out there who's listening who feels too broken or feels like they've been through too much trauma to actually heal from their sexual shame and guilt. If you're listening to this, then there's something inside of you that wants it. There's something inside of you that's like hungry for it. So listen to that voice, even if it's the tiniest little squeak of a voice, like listen to it, just keep listening to it, talking to it, getting to know it, and you'll find your way on the path.
Yeah, I think also like there's some people who just don't feel like they're built for partnership, relationship, or sexuality. That's just not what they're here to do. And that's totally okay. Not everyone has to have a sex life. Is it because they feel broken? I know some people, percentage wise, there's not a lot of asexual in the population, but there are people that, it just doesn't open them, and that's fine. Not everyone has to be interested in relationships or sex. And then there's people with different types of mental health issues. And that's a different issue than just needing to heal some wounds or some trauma or some heartache. Those are more significant, and we're not mental health people. So we couldn't give advice on that in that way. But I also believe with Willow's answer, I don't believe anyone's broken. I just think we get hurt and then our wholeness gets covered up. And the way we want to think about it going forward is that everyone is happy, whole, and healed. And if we can relate to each other from that place, instead of always focusing on the shortcomings, always focusing on the parts that seem damaged, then that happy, whole, healed self gets to come more into presence, and then that's who we relate with more of the time. So I think as people who are out there in the world, one of the things, I'll give you another example. One of the things I started to do when I was looking at men was putting my attention on the greatness of every guy I encountered, of just his talent, his genius, his marvelousness, his strength, his masculinity. And when I put my attention on that, instead of his faults, where he disappoints me, the letdowns, the criticisms, the evaluations of how, well, he wouldn't be good for me, that list. Instead, I'm going to experience the greatness of this man by just putting my attention there. And then what happened was I started to actually be in the greatness of every man I met. He might be a slime bucket somewhere else, but he's an awesome guy when he's interacting with me, because that's what I want to draw forth. And I think when we can put our attention on what's beautiful about people, we'll experience more beauty in the world.
Yeah, I agree. They used to say, how it goes, one woman's trash is the next woman's treasure.
You're right.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's ever too late.
Never too late.
Unless you have, I don't know, bad health or something like that,
Even then, it's never too late. Yeah. Sexual healing can heal your health.
Grandmother-in-law is over 90 years old and got married 2 years ago to someone 10 years younger than her. So even in your 90s, you can find love.
Yeah, I agree. I've seen, as a kid, I saw a lady had high blood pressure, and she was a diabetic, and after her husband left her for like 2 years, she just got ill and got sick and everything, and they got back together somehow, and all of a sudden she's not sick no more. I'm like, what the heck is going on?
Yes, our love.
That's a testament.
Yeah, and I asked my mom, hey, how did that happen like that? She kind of smiled and laughed. So I've seen things growing up, but I never could explain why, so I think, oh, okay, she overcame it somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, give a woman an orgasm and the whole world changes.
Yeah. And you know what? Why is that important? And I mean, well, it don't have to be and y'all don't have to be married or, really, but just in general, generally speaking, why is that important for a woman?
You want to take that, Willow?
Why is orgasm important for a woman?
Yeah.
Well, here's the deal. When you have an orgasm, this little hormone called oxytocin floods through your whole body. And this hormone is the bonding hormone. It's the love hormone. It's the hormone that makes you feel connected. It opens your heart, makes you feel seen. It's like the MDMA of hormones. And before that orgasm, it's likely that you have a bunch of cortisol running through your body. Cortisol is the stress hormone. It makes you feel tight, constricted,
grumpy,
just not open. And so orgasms really open you, like from a physiological perspective. I always look at hormones as like elixirs in your body. So, if you were to drink one elixir of cortisol, you'd feel not one way, a way that you don't really want to feel. And if you were to drink an elixir of oxytocin, you'd feel more open, more in love with yourself and with life. And it really helps people come closer together. One thing I always do tell my female clients is if you're not ready to get attached to him, you might want to question having an orgasm with him. So you might want to not do that if you're not ready to deal with the attachment and the bonding that's going to happen. Because for vulva owners, the oxytocin can last up to 2 weeks of I want more with that one person and I feel attached to that one person. And for penis owners, it can last about 2 hours. So that's something for our male listeners to consider as well, is to be aware that women get more attached through that experience of orgasm than penis owners do. And if you know as a male or penis owner that you are not quite ready for that person to become attached to you, then you could do them a favor and say, hey, let's hold off on this a little bit longer and just keep feeling out our energy together and our compatibility.
I would add too that pleasure increases our immune system. So that actually helps us fight off disease. And studies show that pleasure helps people live longer. And so a pleasure-filled life is something to really pay attention to. And orgasm is one of those massive doors in to having a pleasure-filled life. But pleasure goes beyond the bedroom. And just like Willow said, when you're dating someone, you're not sure how deep you want to go yet. You can still explore so much pleasure and find out what gives this person pleasure. I always tell people, write out a pleasure list. All the things, the simple things, the big things, going on an adventure, drinking wine on an outdoor cafe, talking to your favorite friend, eating a delicious piece of fruit, whatever the case may be, and then put it on the fridge. It's always on my list. Sex on the lunch hour. I love a lunch hour session. So you write all these things on a piece of paper, you put it on the refrigerator, and then every time a pleasure has been experienced, you check it off. You write thank you and the person's name who granted you that pleasure, even if it's yourself. And 2 things happen as a result. One is it gives other people practice to take a look at pleasure in their life. It's also a little vulnerable, right, to put that all out there. We're not really pro-pleasure in our culture. We're pro-hard work.
Oh, yeah.
But we need to be pro-pleasure because that's what balances life.
Yep.
And you know, the soul gets weary. So we have this thing inside of ourselves called pleasure. We have orgasms that we can gift others and gift ourselves. And we need that because life is shit sometimes. There's cancer, car accidents, and parents get sick and little kids die. It's terrible. But we also have puppies and baby smiles and orgasms and pie. And so we need to do things to kind of balance life out. And that's what pleasure and orgasm gives us.
Yeah, I would say we need more harmony in relationships today. Too much tension and too much stress and too much bickering and too much fighting and too much, you know, just need more harmony, more, you know, I think, I don't know if it's going to get better anytime soon. I don't know.
Well, we're kind of set up. Biologically, we are prone to have a negative bias. And that's because we had to survive, you know, thousands of years ago. We don't need that negativity bias so much anymore, but it's hardwired. So it takes actually four negative thoughts or criticisms to every one positive. Yeah. So what that means is, I think I got it backwards. You have to do 4 positive things to wipe out 1 negative thing.
Yeah, I get it.
And that sucks. That's a lot of hypervigilance to put attention on when you think about your judgments, whether you're judging yourself or you're judging somebody else. To remember that, man, I gotta up, like you said, I gotta up the positivity so I have more harmony in my life. And I think, you know, the biggest anecdote to that is curiosity. I think if we can start getting more curious, we'll find more harmony and we'll get ourselves out of judgments.
Yeah, and also just focusing on gratitude, like what is it, and appreciation. You know, we had an interview once where our interviewee was talking about beyond gratitude, there's appreciation. So it's always good to have a gratitude practice. One of my favorite things to do is to go to bed and go through my day. What were the things from start to finish that I was really grateful for? So that's a great practice. But just being grateful throughout the day for little things is really going to put you in a more positive mindset. But even beyond that is appreciation. And it's really about appreciating everything. Like the things that you label good, the things that you label bad, the things that make you feel elated, the things that make you feel sad, all of those can be appreciated because look at you, look at how powerful you are that you created or co-created that with the universal field, that experience. And if it's a powerful, deep breakdown or loss or grief or sadness or anger or seemingly a negative emotion, you could actually turn your perspective around and see that as like, wow, I created that really powerful experience. That must mean that there's some serious power inside of me that I can access.
Harness,
and so what am I going to learn from that, you know, challenging experiencing and that challenging emotion? And how am I going to take my power that I'm claiming from that and turn it around and turn it into a pearl?
Yeah. And I think what's cool about that word appreciation is you think about it from the context of like the stock market, and your stocks appreciate, they make you more money, they multiply, which is why the word is a little bit different than gratitude, because it goes beyond just being thankful. It goes into this energy of, I want to appreciate something so it multiplies. And when I'm unconscious about the other things that I'm creating in life that I wish wouldn't multiply, I can start to use my attention more powerfully.
Nice. So there's one thing, y'all both had your individual experiences and accolades and everything, but it's one thing to say, hey, I have my own experiences. I've discovered what I've discovered and learned what I've learned through my individual experiences, and I got educated in this, and that's one thing. But how do you have the confidence to say that, hey, you know what, man, we can come together and we can help other people do the same thing,
right?
Avoid some of the trials and tribulations that we both had. How'd y'all have the confidence to say, hey, we can help other people to avoid some of this? And how'd y'all come to How did y'all get to that place?
Well, go ahead.
I would say that for me, as a little girl, I wanted to be an actress. I wanted to be a movie star. And so I have sort of the personality that isn't afraid to be in the front of the room. And so I think that was just, so look, I wasn't going to become a real actress. I don't have that kind of talent. I'm not that beautiful. And I'm quite short for the big screen.
I disagree with all those statements.
I
have a different perspective on those.
I did realize that my dad's dream was to be a star. I just wanted to be close to my dad. So I decided to be that too. And as you grow up and you move on, I still had all the theatrical attributes that I developed as a kid hanging out with my dad. And even though I didn't want that stage, I still kind of wanted a stage. And I didn't know how it was all going to come together. But when I took this course on Tantra and it changed my life so much, it just felt like a natural extension and expression. And because I had such a profound healing experience, I felt like, and this comes back to the appreciation thing that Willow was talking about, that trauma as a kid was so devastating. I had so much shame around it. I had years of healing I needed to do around it. And when I overcame that, it was like, how do I make sense of that? How do I appreciate that experience? That experience really sucked. It was really painful. It was really hard. It was very dark. And one of the ways that helped me make sense of that experience was to do something with it, to say, I did all this hard work and here I am, so that I can let other people know that it's possible for them too. And that is how I've appreciated that experience. So it's kind of twofold. Again, I felt like it chose me, and I just happened to have some of the guts that it takes to be in the front of the room and make a fool out of myself sometimes.
Yeah, I'm going to say that it really helps to have a partner in crime. So, we support each other in this confidence to help others on the journey and on the path. And sometimes I don't have the confidence. Sometimes I don't have, how am I helping other people on their path when it feels like sometimes I can't help myself. However, I have the experience over and over and over again of helping people in very deep and profound ways. And one of the things that really keeps me aligned with that reality, that truth, and that experience is presence. It's like really all people need is somebody just to witness them and to be present with them. And profound healing and changes can happen pretty readily. Of course, there's techniques and there's breathing and there's sound and there's all kinds of things to do. But it's just showing up for somebody who's working through their wounding, who's working through their trauma. It's just being there with them and letting them know that it's okay, that they're where they're at, and acknowledging that they are moving the needle forward, that they are making changes in their life. And here's the evidence, and pointing to it so that they can see it. Because when we're in our own experience, we get really lost in what's the words I'm looking for, Leah? Like we get really, we don't have the bigger perspective.
Yeah,
right?
we're zoomed in instead of zoomed out.
Yeah, we get myopic and we can only see what we can see. So we need the objectivity. We need somebody who's not us, who's outside of us, who can show us that there's something bigger going on here for us personally, and we can't see it quite yet, but it's there.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly don't do this alone. We've had teachers and communities that, support the unfolding of who each of us is becoming in this type of work. People who believe in you, people who see something in you that maybe you can't quite see yet. And that reflection helps you, move towards what's possible. And it helps you be courageous, and it helps you confront fear, and it helps you do hard things. And the truth of the matter is doing hard things is a very important marker to having life satisfaction. There's a lot of reward from facing your fears and doing things you didn't know you could do.
Yeah. That's true. So speaking of you learn everything, how was that journey for both of y'all? Like just learning something new, maybe you grew up completely different. Maybe your family religious. How was that journey of like just learning something like completely new, just like something that you didn't even know existed? Right. How was that? Because a lot of times, when we learn something new, a lot of us are kind of closed off, and we're kind of like, oh no, that's not me, that's not for me, I don't want to do that, we don't do that in our family. Right.
Try describing to someone sitting next to you on a plane what you do for a living.
Yeah.
It's been interesting. I grew up the first 10 years of my life in a Pentecostal born again church, and then my parents left that and baptized us into Catholicism, and I had to go to Catholic school. So two very, very dramatic spiritual, religious, Christian constructs. And so I had that as my foundation: fear, guilt, and shame around sex.
Yeah.
And then my parents at around 16, it was like they were ready to embrace their hippie roots. And I was like, finally. Oh, okay. So I was also ready to individuate. I was going to be my own person, and I was kind of a hippie kid going through school. And so that kind of gave me a door into being weird. And I had already practiced being weird most of my childhood, so it was kind of expected by this point, starting to look at career life. And then I realized early on in being a Tantra teacher that the most loving thing I could do was really measure what someone could hear when they wanted to know what I did for a living. So what I tell the person in the airplane, compared to my best friend, compared to my grandmother, are going to be slightly different, depending on what they can hear. And so there's lots of specialties under my umbrella. So with my grandmother, 5 years into my career, she said, "So what do you do, honey?" And I said, "Well, I help people love better, Grandma. I have a specialty in sexual healing, and I use an Eastern philosophy to teach some of those teachings." Okay. And so other people, I teach the yoga of sex. Mm-hmm. So there's lots of different ways to communicate what you do from this standpoint.
Yeah.
And I just had to learn to be creative.
Yeah.
Yeah. Repeat the question again.
Okay. Yeah. How did you along your journey of learning everything you learned so far, how was it? Was it hard? Was it difficult?
Oh, right.
Yes. The social.
So, it's so funny because as you were asking the question, we get so many people on our podcasts where it's like, I was in corporate and then I did a massive change, or I was an architect and then I went into healing work, and I don't have that story. I've always been in healing work, like since I was 13 years old. My grandma was my very first yoga teacher, and so I got into the field. I mean, I grew up in a Catholic upbringing, so there was plenty of shame and guilt around sexuality and expression and all of that, but I never subscribed to it. I just didn't look at it. I just knew it was wrong. So I just, whatever, I didn't give it any energy. And so I've kind of always been on the alternative health and healing path. So it was very natural and very easy for me to move into teaching Taoist sexology. When I was in Chinese medicine school, I was noticing as I was studying all the different branches of Chinese medicine. We've got acupuncture, we've got herbology, we've got nutrition, we've got all these different branches. And I was like, where's the branch on sexuality? There was little hiccup of information in my 4 years of my master's degree, and
true
zero
training.
Yeah, zero in my doctorate program, like none. I wrote my papers on how to use your sexual energy to heal your menstrual cycles, how to use your sexual energy to create more abundance in your life, whether it's health abundance or financial abundance or relationship abundance, fertility, all these different things. And so I took a lot of old texts from the Tao and from Tantra and just poured through them. I'm really good at learning through books, learning through reading. So I would just take what I learned, I would practice it on my own, I would practice it with partners, and then I would just create a way to deliver it to people. And so it always just felt real natural. It wasn't a big switch over for me. I have kind of a different storyline around that than a lot of practitioners.
Yeah, some people will say you've been a hippie all your life.
I've been a hippie all my life. You definitely could say that.
Flower child.
Yeah. So in a perfect world, who's your, I guess, ideal client? Who do you usually work with? Or is it a combination of couples and singles or what?
That's a fun question. I love working with men. I love working with women too. I run a whole 9-month program for women where they really can learn how the Taoist sexual system lives inside of them, and they can really awaken that and turn that on, and use it to create the life that their heart deeply desires. And then when I work with men, I often work with them privately. And one of the things that, having worked in so many women's groups and having worked with so many women over the years, women are complicated. They're complex creatures, both
they are.
Physically and hormonally and emotionally and psychologically.
Jesus.
I mean, there's
I got compassion for men.
They're just, we're kind of a mess. And so then working with men has always felt like, so streamlined, so
straightforward.
easy, just like, here's a person who wants help, and they will pay for it, and they will get the help, and they will do the work. And whereas women are, more like, I don't know if I can today because my cycle came along early or whatever, and so I have so much compassion for women, being one myself, and I think that's one of the beautiful things that my work really gives women is permission to not be so streamlined. Like it doesn't have to be A to B like it would be for a man. I mean, when we look at the male brain compared to the female brain, and we look at the different hormones in these two different gendered bodies, and there are many other genders out there, and they have the same brain and hormones. If you came in as a penis owner, you came in as a vulva owner, unless you're changing that with external circumstances, you still have a thicker corpus callosum as a female. You have a bigger amygdala as a penis owner, and so those play a really big role in how we see the world and in how we relate to others and relate to ourselves. And our relationship with our own sexuality is one of the most powerful relationships that we could exalt in our lives.
Yeah. I would say that the people who I love to work with the most are people who are ready. People who are really stepping into, I know there's something that I need that I don't have, and I'm going after it. And if you can come from that perspective, the journey is so fun, so magical, so deep, and so efficient. Who I don't like working with is people I have to drag along. I'm not your gal if you just want to sit and complain and you don't follow through on the action steps that you outline and want to move forward with. The best people are people who are hungry to open, who so want to open their body, their hearts, their minds, their energy, their spirituality. Any one of those categories is enough reason to get extreme transformation and to just live a happier, healthier life and to attract healthier, happier people into your orbit, which, God, is such a smart thing to do.
I agree 100%.
And I like couples, singles, groups, and men for various reasons. I would say sometimes the most challenging is couples.
Yeah, couples can be challenging.
Because the best thing a couple can do is come and see us before they need help.
That's right. Yeah.
Because when a couple is in a good shape, they stay in good shape with good support. Mm-hmm. Couples don't usually look for support until everything's all fucked up. Oh, shit. And now you have two different people who are on two different wavelengths who are having a hard time meeting in the middle. And half the time, I mean, if you look at couples therapy, most therapists who specialize in couples are helping couples break up well. Because by the time they get into therapy, they can't see eye to eye. So you're just dealing with two individual people at that point. So I highly encourage people who are new in relationships. Me and my husband, we started therapy the first month we got together, not because we were hurting, but because we wanted help understanding each other. We spoke sometimes different languages and we'd get stuck here and there, but mostly it was to talk about plans for the future and how to do them well. And it's one of the smartest things I've ever done. So I really encourage people, get somebody that you can rely on, find that expert, and then don't wait too long when things get rocky.
Yeah. So if people wanted to work with you guys and reach out to you online, where would they go to?
Well, the first place they should stop by is sexreimagined.com. That is the site for Willow and I, where we host our podcast, including YouTube and all the other streaming apps, the Sex Reimagined Podcast. And it's where we've got a lot of our online courses. And then if you want to work with us individually, you can find me at moreloveworks.com and Dr. Willow at drwillowbrown.com.
There you have it. All links will be found in the show notes. Like, share this episode. Tell me what you think below. Until next time, we're out. Peace. If you like this video, share this video. And if you want to support my channel, click the thanks tab and leave me a donation. 2, 5, 10,